Welcome to Brums, the word from Anything But Footy, brought to you with Kukri Sports, the official kit supplier for Team England. And, well, finally, after all the build-up, after all the waiting, after all the interviews, we are here. I'm here. I'm in the centre of Birmingham. Let me describe exactly where I am and what I can see. I'm actually on the balcony at the Central Library in Birmingham. The reason I'm here is because Team England have recently announced that Jack Law and Emily Campbell, the diver and weightlifter respectively, are going to be their flag bearers for the opening ceremony, and more coming up between now and opening ceremony night on the podcast about that. But I'm here to meet those guys, and also just because I have a fantastic vista of Birmingham here. I've got the Hyatt Hotel, which has the little bridge over Broad Street into the International Convention Centre. That's just on my right hand side. If I look down below me, I've got Broad Street there, and just behind me I've got the Canals and Brindley Place. It's here. Birmingham 2022 is happening. I'm Michael.
And I'm John, and the 5,000 athletes from the 70-odd nations and territories of the Commonwealth are descending on the second city, like Michael, for the third English Commonwealth Games after London in 1934 and Manchester in 2002.
Coming up, we'll be hearing from two of the new sports here in Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games: women's cricket and 3x3 basketball.
Very fast pace. Very, very fast pace. I mean, it's a quarter of a regular basketball game, only 10 minutes.
It's really nice. I think it's hit home a little bit how it's going to be at the Commonwealths and how you're part of a bigger team.
Fantastic, and differing locations for those two sports as well. You've got Edgbaston, which cricket fans will know, home of Warwickshire County Cricket Club. Obviously a test match venue for England's men and women, of course, all the history with Edgbaston. But then you've got a brand new temporary venue in the centre of Birmingham, Smithfield. The markets have been demolished, and there we have beach volleyball and the 3x3 basketball courts.
We've also got our usual roundup before tomorrow's opening ceremony of the news from the Games, and stay tuned for an exclusive Team England discount from the Kukri website, just for listening.
This is Brums, the word with Kukri Sports, a podcast from Anything But Footy. Now, normally, host cities of the Commonwealth Games get maybe 6-7 years to prepare. But for Birmingham, they only got 5. In fact, they got less than 5, 4.5 years, because in December 2017, they won a race against Liverpool to replace Durban, who were the original hosts for the Commonwealth Games of 2022. If things had been different, I would be sat in South Africa potentially now. But as John has said, I'm in England's second city. I'm in Birmingham, and the city is dressed for the occasion. I mentioned earlier on where I was on the balcony of the redeveloped Central Library, which I think now is less than 10 years old. So we're just near kind of Centenary Square, Broad Street, Brindley Place, if you know the geography of Birmingham. And all around me, there's new buildings have sprung up. There's a metro now that runs down Broad Street. All here, all those huge infrastructure projects like the Sandwell Aquatic Centre and some of the developments in the wider region of the West Midlands, here because the Commonwealth Games is here. The branding is all over the big buildings at the moment. I mean, I'm pushing things, but this is how I imagine, if you look out from the Empire State Building, what the cityscape of Manhattan looks like. That's the Birmingham equivalent at the moment. I said I'm pushing things slightly, but I'm excited because Birmingham 2022 is here. There's Perry mascots all over the city. I said all the building sites, and there are still some building sites, some of the developments still taking place. They've shrouded them with these giant banners, all with the Commonwealth Games and with Birmingham 2022. So, you know, the city is very much ready. I think like all host cities, there's been one or two teething problems with people picking up some accreditation ahead of the opening ceremony. But my experience so far, having been here a day, absolutely fantastic. Volunteers doing a brilliant job as ever. And the athletes, the ones I've spoken to, they just want to get going.
Sounds like it is buzzing Birmingham already. I can't wait to get there later in the week. And it's Perry. That's what I need to keep thinking. The mascot is Perry, because all I want to call him is Bully from Bullseye.
A bendy bully.
Oh, dear.
And you've got to buy a plushy Perry. That's what the Anything But Footy second generation children will want. So as we've mentioned, two new sports, the focus in this episode of Brums, the word cricket, back in the Commonwealth Games for the first time since 1998. The first time, though, that women's matches are taking place, and it's going to be a T20 competition format as well. Remember, back in 98 in Kuala Lumpur, England didn't send a team. In a moment, we'll hear from skipper Heather Knight and recent debutant Issy Wong, who 8 years ago was just a fan in Glasgow, soaking in the special atmosphere of the friendly games.
Also new to the Commonwealth Games is 3x3 basketball, which made its Olympic debut in Tokyo. But for the first time, it'll be played in front of fans at that purpose-built court in Smithfield in Birmingham city centre that Michael was mentioning. Men, women and 2 wheelchair gold medals all up for grabs. Basketball is one of the biggest participation sports in the country, but severely underrepresented in the media and with funding. So it's hoped this street-style game with a third of a court and 1 net could be the start of something. Now, Shanice Beckford-Norton already knows all about inspiring and legacy, as her London Lions basketball team plays at the Copper Box in Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, and she's told Michael she's thrilled to be heading to the second city.
I think it's kind of becoming real now that we're here in Loughborough and we're seeing a bunch of other athletes around campus, and we're getting our kit and everything's kind of coming together. Our team actually just came from a camp in Cardiff, and just watching the film on the teams that we're playing, Canada, New Zealand, and getting on the court and actually just getting all the little pieces and finalizing everything that we need to do to be successful in the next week or so. Reality is hitting, I would say, right now. And it's such a great opportunity. And I think we're realizing the success that we can actually have in the Commonwealth Games this year. And it's great. It's fantastic. We have a great team, great coaching staff supporting us. And I think we just have a great opportunity to do something amazing.
And is it an opportunity because this is something that's bigger than you as an individual and bigger than your club even?
I think it's the sport. It's such a big picture. Throughout the season, we've had, at our individual clubs, we've had so many people supporting us. And then now we're coming together this summer, and the prep started a year ago. Playing in tournaments throughout the summer to try and get us ready for it. It's relatively new sport, 3x3 for Team England and Basketball England, but I think we've done a good job of being prepared and having all the information and resources that we need to actually come out and do something great this summer. So it's definitely the bigger picture, and even in London specifically, where I'm from, 3x3 is being promoted quite a bit and advertised quite a bit, and people are actually seeing it's not just a street ball game. You can actually have some success, and you can compete and you can make a living out of it. So I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone gets to see what you can do with a sport that some people may thought was just street ball, just something fun to do in the park with your friends.
But 3x3, that's new and exciting, isn't it? Tell us a bit about it. So people that maybe haven't seen it, what are they going to see? What can they expect?
Very fast pace. Very, very fast pace. I mean, it's a quarter of a regular basketball game, only 10 minutes, or first team to 21. There's not really that many stoppages throughout the game unless there's a foul or a violation or something like that. And it's also very physical. Not as many fouls are called. You're allowed to just play a little bit and be a bit free. And I think you get to see basketball players actually showcase what they can do more on an individual basis. You have more room to play one-on-one, whether it's on the perimeter or inside, but players are allowed to be free just a little bit more than you would see on 5-on-5. The court is actually a little bit smaller than a half court. So you would have the table officials and the scorer's table that's slightly inside the half court, but the out of bounds line is probably a meter or so inside that. And then with someone scores, you have to clear it outside the 3-point line, whether that's passing or dribbling before you can go attack again. And that's even on a steal or just any change of possession, you have to clear it outside the 3-point line. So it's kind of similar to what you might do when you play with your friends in the park, but just more structured, I would say.
And how excited are you to be right in the heart of things, in the centre of Birmingham, at that venue?
No, it's such a great area. I never actually visited Birmingham or been able to walk around the town a bit, but it was, I think, just last week, I was able to go there and see the court and see the practice court and see what they're building and developing for us in the coming weeks. And the town is such a great place as well. I think we'll be able to draw in quite a big crowd, and you have beach volleyball quite close to us as well. So I think the atmosphere will be amazing once the games get started.
How important is it to you to inspire some people, whether that's a young boy, a young girl, to take up your sport?
I think it's one of the biggest things. Like I said, I'm an academy manager for my club, and like I have parents telling me, oh, like, when do you play? What time? We want to try and get down. We're watching these sports and we want to be able to see you play as well. Like, the support has been amazing for me personally throughout the entire season and this summer. And like I said, we have such a great squad, and we have people who look up to us. I mean, like, we have Olympians on our team and top players in Europe, and even like Hannah, she plays at Stanford right now. Like, we have such a great team, and I think we can show a lot of what the hard work and dedication that we put in can do for this country. So it's definitely big for us to be able to inspire younger generations or even older generations, even whether it's like them getting involved in playing or like volunteering or just being able to go out and watch and be a fan. It's such a big thing for us.
And we need to encourage more diversity in sport, certainly in leadership roles in sport as well. Is that something that you feel is important?
Yeah, it is very important. I think me personally, I would like to see a lot more young girls get involved, and maybe basketball being something where they can like step out of their shell a little bit and find like that family outside of their family. Like, I have lifelong friends that I found in basketball, and I think that opportunity is available for everyone. It's just we have to keep it like, basketball is a great sport, and we have to keep that community base wherever you go. Like, travel, doesn't matter where you are, like America, anywhere in Europe, could be in Australia, but it's just about that feeling of belonging. Like, you really can set up and play anywhere, even without a hoop. Just, I see kids like dribbling on the street, playing one-on-one on the side of the street and stuff like that. But I think we do need to do a better job of like keeping courts in parks up to date and like up to good standards where kids can go and play and like shoot on hoops and play anywhere really. Like Project Swish and Basketball England doing a good job of like getting people nets and stuff like that, so we can play where courts are actually nice enough to play.
I remember being at the Olympics in 2016, seeing Great Britain win a hockey gold and the explosion of interest in hockey. On Gold Coast, I was there at the netball and subsequently saw what happened in terms of that sport winning the medal. What would it mean for your sport, for England, to be on the podium?
I mean, it would be massive. Like I said, we have like Olympians, and all of us on the team have represented the national team previous when we were younger and stuff like that. So just people being able to see the strides that we've taken and the stages in our development as basketball players and as athletes, and to be able to take that home would be something phenomenal. I mean, like me being back home, I grew up in London, went away, played in America for a little while, and being back, just that experience for me has been amazing. But now being able to be with Team England once again, and my first time competing in a multi-sport event like this, something so big, is honestly an honor.
Well, all the very best. I look forward to seeing you in Birmingham.
No, thanks so much.
Shanice Beckford-Norton speaking to me. She was at a visit to the venue in the city centre of Birmingham. Absolutely thrilled with that. And I think that Smithfield backdrop will be one of the standout images. There are always standout images at the Games. You remember diving in Barcelona at the Olympics in '92, Horse Guards Parade 10 years ago in London. I think Smithfield will be one of the enduring images of these Games in Birmingham. And the 16 basketball players make up the 4 teams for England, many with Paralympic, World and European Championship experience. Maybe the Olympics could be the goal in the future. Now, the action starts Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock. England's men's wheelchair team in action against South Africa first up. The women take on Kenya straight afterwards in that first session. Saturday afternoon sees the English men and women's 3x3 basketball face New Zealand in their group games.
Yeah, great to hear Shanice talking so passionately about the sport she loves, and let's hope it captures the imagination and appears somewhat on the 200 hours of TV the BBC is promising to show. You mentioned that Saturday afternoon, Michael. I'm going to be there with my family. My 5-year-old is super excited about this sport. We can't wait to see what it's going to be like and what Smithfield's going to be like as well.
I've got an 11-year-old that can't wait to watch the gymnastics. This is Brums the Word with Kukri Sports, and still to come, we talk T20 cricket with England captain Heather Knight, and in our news from the Games, some crucial advice for you if you have tickets.
And just for listening to us, you can get official Team England merchandise at kukrisports.com and save 10%. Just use the code ABF2022 when you're checking out. It's an exclusive offer from our friends at Kukri.
cricket is back in the Commonwealth Games. But as we're talking new sports on this podcast, it's actually the first time the women's game has been involved and the first time for the T20 format. 15 English players making history, the first cricketers to represent Team England at the Commonwealth Games. There's international call-ups for teenagers Alice Capsey and Freya Kemps, both 17, youngest members of Team England. The oldest members are lawn bowlers who are in their 70s. Issy Wong, meanwhile, will get a chance to represent her country in her home city. So, the format, 2 groups of 4. Top 2 teams progress to the semi-finals. England will face New Zealand, South Africa, Sri Lanka in Group B. Australia, India, Pakistan and Barbados in Group A. All the matches being played in Edgbaston, 2 a day. England come into this tournament in full flow, having beaten a relatively poor South African team this summer 3-0 in the one-dayers and 3-0 in the T20. The only result the tourists got was a draw in the opening test match. Now, coming up, we'll hear from Issy Wong. She's a 20-year-old fast bowler, local star for Warwickshire, a very proud Brummie, as you'll hear in conversation with John in a moment. But first up, let's hear from the skipper, Heather Knight, on making her Commonwealth Games debut.
Yeah, we're obviously the newbies in the camp, aren't we? Yeah, it's really cool. It's very different to anything that we've been involved in. Obviously, cricket isn't involved in any multi-sport events ever, so this is a brand new experience for us. One that's really cool, one that's very exciting to the audience that we can reach. I remember as a kid, when the Commonwealth Games were on, just watching any sport that was available and just loving the atmosphere and the buzz around that 2 weeks of sport. And yeah, it's a chance for us to maybe reach people that wouldn't be interested in cricket before, that might switch it on just to watch the Commonwealths, basically. And it's a chance for us to draw them in and hopefully get excited about women's cricket and be involved in it in the future. So yeah, something that's very different for us, but it's certainly something that we're really looking forward to.
Because, of course, you're vastly experienced, highly successful, and also used to wearing the England kit. So what's it like putting on the Team England kit?
It's really nice. I think it's hit home a little bit how it's going to be at the Commonwealths and how you're part of a bigger team representing England. And yeah, it's just nice to know that you're going to be a part of it. I think it's going to be a very different feel. We're used to being quite independent and doing our own thing, I think. So it's felt a little bit like we're heading off on some big, exciting school trip and getting to know athletes from different sport and being around, obviously, the city of Birmingham and getting to know different athletes is something that's going to be really exciting for us and a lot of fun, I'm sure. And yeah, hopefully we can be a part of what's going to be hopefully a successful Games for Team England.
And talk to us about those games. You're in Group B against Sri Lanka, New Zealand and South Africa.
We'll be match ready. I know a lot of the teams will just be playing sort of warm-ups and holding camps and things like that. So I think we'll have a good advantage in terms of being match fit and match sharp, which is great. And yeah, I think T20 cricket is such a mad sport. It's all about what happens on the day, and one player can win you a match and a bad 10-15 minutes can lose you a match. So yeah, we're certainly going to have to be on it against all of the teams that we're playing and make sure that we're bringing our best each and every match.
And is T20 the right format to fit into these Commonwealth Games for you guys?
Yeah, I certainly think so. It's fun, it's exciting, it's fast, and the skill level's really there. And I think it's been a huge vehicle to push the women's game forward in the last 4 or 5 years. That format of T20 cricket with the flashing lights and various music and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a format that's really fun and appeals to a lot of spectators and a lot of youngsters. So yeah, I certainly think it's the right format, and obviously trying to fit all those games in at one ground as well. Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they go about that with the pitches. So yeah, I certainly think it's the right way to do it with T20.
Because just slightly away from the Commonwealth Games at the moment, I think you were saying that you were quite frustrated that there weren't more tests available for England women. And is the shorter form beginning to take over too much, in your opinion?
I don't think too much. I think actually it's really helped to propel the women's game forward, and it's allowed it to grow a lot faster around the world. I still think there's a place for 50 over and test match cricket. We've started to play a few more tests recently compared to what we did before. Still not particularly many games, but more boards are starting to be willing to take it. But I do think a lot of boards around the world don't have the capacity at the moment to play Test cricket, and T20 is something that everyone can play, everyone can compete in, and be a bit of a starting block to open up further formats. But yeah, I think in an ideal world there'll be a bit of everything, and that's what I think is great about cricket. It has so many different formats that appeal to different people. A lot of people might not like T20 and just want to have the nice relaxing ebbs and flows of Test cricket, which is great. But yeah, I think as long as each format is being looked after and is viewed as precious, I think that's important.
So going back to the Commonwealth Games squad, you've got a couple of debutants joining your 15. It shows the strength in depth in your team, your squad.
Yeah, it does. I think it's a really exciting squad that we've picked. I think a lot of it has been through how those younger players have gone about it in domestic cricket. We've got a pretty clear idea of the sort of cricketer we want. People that are really aggressive, fearless, and are able to add to the really good world-class players that we already have. So players like Alice Capsey, Bryony Smith, Freya Kemp, players that haven't been involved at all, or Bryony not for quite a few years. So we feel like they really add to how we want to do things, the mentality we want to have, and obviously the skill that they bring as well. And I think it's going to be quite a fresh, different feel. We've obviously together as an ODI squad at the moment, and 6 new players are going to join us for the T20 leg of the South Africa trip next week. So yeah, certainly it's something we're probably not used to, changing that many players, but I think it's a squad that we've picked that we think will really create a really good group that has a skill set to obviously try and win that gold medal.
And is it too easy to say, or the wrong thing to say, that it'll be England, Australia in the final?
I think that's too easy. I think T20 cricket is such a roll of the dice sometimes. I think obviously the goal is to be there, but I found in big events like this before, you can't look too far ahead of yourself. You've got to look at that first game, look at trying to get out the group stages as your primary goal, and then it's all about the semi-final and hopefully a final. So yeah, I've certainly learned that from being involved in big events. You have to take it game by game. But yeah, I think a repeat of the 50 over World Cup final would be nice, and obviously it'd be nice to get a little bit of revenge on that as well, and come away with the win this time.
Well, we'll be keeping everything crossed. Heather Knight, thank you so much for talking to Anything But Footy.
Thank you. Good to speak to you.
So I'm Issy Wong, cricketer. Looking forward to representing Team England at the Commonwealth Games. Yeah, had to think about that one. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but no, really looking forward to it. Obviously, not an opportunity that if any of us thought we'd get at any point in our careers. So yeah, I think we're really embracing it as a squad, and yeah, definitely really looking forward to getting to Edgbaston and showing what we can do.
And of course, you play for Warwickshire. So is Birmingham home?
Yeah, I've lived in Birmingham since I was 4. So yeah, I was born in London, but definitely grew up, and I guess what was it? Born in London, but made in Birmingham. I say, if I started playing cricket here, so I think without the influence of the cricket culture in Birmingham, I wouldn't be probably half the person I am today. So yeah, got a lot to be thankful to Birmingham for, and hopefully we can pay a little bit of it back this summer.
On a broader note, what does it mean for Birmingham then? You're a resident. What does it mean for Birmingham to be staging these games?
Oh, I think it's absolutely massive. Birmingham, I think we get a bad rep sometimes, unfairly, I'd say. I think once you spend a little bit of time in the city, you realise actually it's a really vibrant city. There's all sorts going on. There's all sorts of different cultures, different people, different things going on. You never have 2 days the same. And I think it's massive, and it puts Birmingham on a global stage just to show, exactly what it's got to offer, and exactly how, exciting a place it can be. I remember I went up to Glasgow to watch the 2014 Commonwealth Games with my family, and just seeing the atmosphere around the whole city. I've never been to Glasgow before, but I remember thinking, God, Glasgow's the coolest place ever. Like, the atmosphere here is amazing, and I bet a lot of that was down to the Commonwealth Games being there and everyone just buying into it. So yeah, hoping that Birmingham can live up to and exceed those expectations.
You're one of 15 England cricketers named for Team England for the Commonwealth Games. Will you be able to show them the sights of Birmingham, maybe?
I hope so, COVID permitting. You know, I've got some good coffee shops up my sleeve. I think obviously in the hundreds, and last year got to know the city centre probably a lot better than I have done previously, spending quite a bit of time there. So scouting out the best places to eat, best places to get a coffee, you know, best places to get an ice cream, whatever it is. I reckon I've got somewhere up the sleeve.
Sounds good. Let's talk about you. I think you only made your England debut this week.
I made my test debut about 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, it's been a pretty wild couple of weeks, actually. I've still not sunk in. It's still not sunk in that I'm going to the Commonwealth Games, to be honest. Yeah, just trying to ride the wave at the moment, I think. And I'm sure maybe at the end of the summer or somewhere through the winter, when I've finally put my feet up for a couple of days on the trot, it might actually sink in, just I guess just how far I've come this summer, because, at the start of the year, I was playing domestic cricket and I'd had a couple of niggles. I wasn't necessarily in the best place in my cricket, but actually to come through that, and where I am now, to just being able to enjoy my cricket and, tick off things off the bucket list that I've been dreaming of since I was little, it's really special. So just trying to make the most of it at the moment.
And Edgbaston well, obviously. You'd encourage people to come along and support you guys.
I'm completely unbiased, of course, but I don't think there's anywhere better to watch cricket in the world. The atmosphere there, I think of the 100 last year when we had 10,000 plus people coming to watch women's domestic cricket. And that, previously that was unheard of, and the atmosphere in there was, incredible. And it really felt like, as the home team in Birmingham, people were getting behind us. And, I think that makes a massive difference, whatever sport you're playing. Absolutely. I'd encourage people, especially these games, I remember we went to go and watch table tennis in Glasgow. We never watched table tennis before. So, there's going to be people there that have never watched a game of cricket in their life. They probably don't know the rules, but I'd encourage them to get down and just to have fun. You don't need to know the rules. You don't need to, hopefully the sun will be shining and you can have a good day out.
2 more questions for me. Birmingham 2022 is set to have the largest ever female programme in history, with 2020 coming in and etc. We're seeing with the Euros that England are doing well in the football at the moment. Does it matter? Do these things actually matter? And are things changing for the better?
They've been going that way for the last 5-10 years. Nothing's changing. It's just gathering momentum. Like you say, the Euros at the moment, Old Trafford being sold out for the Lionesses' first game, that's huge. I know you're anything but football, so you look over the pond, you look at the WNBA, like that's never been bigger than it is now. And for us as athletes, it's really exciting, I guess, to be fortunate enough to be playing sport at this time as a female. There's no better time to help lead the way for generations of women to come. And hopefully, I think we're thankful for the generations before us that have allowed us to get to this stage and to begin this growth. And hopefully we can just continue to accelerate that, so that, for the next generation of girls, they don't even get asked questions about the women's game growing, because they forget it was never as big as it is then.
Absolutely. Final question then. You mentioned about playing for Warwickshire. You also play for Sydney. Now, you're not telling me that Birmingham is a better city than Sydney, surely?
Obviously, Sydney's got, you think of beaches, you think of the coffee shops, you think of the weather, but, I think Birmingham's got a lot going for it in its own way. I think of the culture and all the different cultures coming together. I think there's, there must be hundreds of communities in Birmingham, all from different backgrounds, all of different religions, from different places around the world, and they eat different food and they speak different languages. And, I think you struggle to find that sort of diversity anywhere else in the world. So, it's definitely up there with Sydney. As good as Sydney was, I love Sydney. But, I love Birmingham.
Izzy, thank you so much for talking to Anything But Footy.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Great to hear from both of them, Michael. I've watched more women's cricket than I probably ever have done this summer, I'll be honest, which is a good thing. It's on the BBC as well as being on Sky. It's more prominent. There's some young players coming through. I think you mentioned 17-year-old Freya Kemp earlier as well, making her debut in the last South Africa game this week. Absolutely incredible. But as we heard, and I did ask Heather if it was nailed on that it would be an Australia-England final. Now, she's never going to say anything but no, but literally, I cannot see anything past that. The big question for me is, can it be gold for Team England against the green and gold? I think cricket, T20 is going to be a cracker.
If you're hearing a bit of background noise at the moment, there's some helicopters flying overhead, and that is because I'm sitting on the balcony of the Central Library in Birmingham ahead of the Games. So in our news from the Games, the fastest men's 800-metre runner in the world this year, that's Britain's Max Bergin, has been forced to pull out of Team England. The 20-year-old British champion missed the World Athletics Championships last week due to injury. He developed deep vein thrombosis and has now withdrawn from Kelly Southerton's athletics squad. We keep everything crossed for Dina Asher-Smith. Hope she's okay after struggling in the 4x100 metre relay at the World. She's messaged saying she's okay and will provide an update soon. Meanwhile, Team Scotland in judo have called up Andrew McWatt in the men's 100-plus kilo category after 2014 gold medalist Chris Sherrington pulled out this week. He had cruciate ligament surgery last year.
COVID, remember that? Well, it is still a thing around the world, and cases remain high in this country. And 2 Team England athletes have tested positive on arrival at the Commonwealth Games. One has subsequently tested negative, the other asymptomatic. And according to a spokesman, they will follow a test-to-release process. One New Zealand athlete is also currently in isolation. I think the message is, look, let's all just take care over the next 10 days.
And interestingly as well, we've had some recent guidance for those of us that are arriving in Birmingham around COVID, and certainly not the strict protocols that we saw in Tokyo at the Olympics, and certainly not what we saw at the Winter Games of Beijing. The organisers say, to collect your accreditation to be part of the media pack here, you don't have to provide a PCR test or a lateral flow test, but some of the individual associations, so Team England, for example, when they are hosting some of their events like their flag bearer announcements, they are requiring proof of a negative lateral flow test, and they are requiring some mask wearing as well. So there are still some protocols, there are still some procedures being put in place. And the reason, of course, is that we are just a day or so away now, aren't we, from that opening ceremony when the Queen's baton relay will conclude at the Alexander Stadium. We wonder who will be the final bearer of the baton and hand that on to Prince Charles, who is going to be reading the message from the Queen. The Queen, remember, put that message in the baton around about a year ago at Buckingham Palace in a ceremony there, handed it to Kadina Cox, the Paralympic champion in cycling and athletics. That baton has now gone around all 72 nations and territories, and it is now in the West Midlands as well. So it was in Smethwick, it went to the Aquatic Centre in Smethwick, it will visit St Andrews, the home of Birmingham City. I know we don't talk about football and anything but footy. It will also go up the famous steps of the Holt End at Villa Park as well. So it will visit many of the major landmarks here in Birmingham before making its way to Perry Bar and that opening ceremony.
Now, if, like me, as I said earlier, you've got tickets for the Games, I was thinking this week, haven't you actually got them? Because, man, I thought maybe is it because I changed my email address? Well, the answer is no. And I tell you, this is really, really important, but also a really good idea, that you just download them. And you can download them onto your mobile, and they sit in an Apple Wallet, or whatever phone you have, and then you scan them as you go in. Or, alternatively, you can print them off. So, look, if you are going to the Games and you're thinking, actually, I haven't got my tickets yet, they are on the Birmingham 2022 website. Go to tickets, go to My Bundle, whatever it's called. All is there. So, gymnastics, 3x3 basketball, as I mentioned, athletics the second weekend. We're looking forward to them from a family point of view, going to those. And we also thought, Michael, that we might go on Saturday morning to watch the marathon, because it starts at 7 a.m. in Birmingham city centre, so we're really looking forward to that as well. But print off your tickets or download them, because you ain't going to get in if you think they're sending them to you in the post.
That 7 a.m. start is because of the notorious hot midday sunshine in Birmingham, so they need to, like they did in Tokyo when they started the triathlon very early in the morning, because they know how hot the temperatures are going to be by Saturday lunchtime. My first tickets are for the opening ceremony. If you were to ask me, going off script here, for a punt on that final baton bearer, Ellie Simmons, got to be a big shout, obviously, from the West Midlands. This is a West Midlands Games. Or what about Amar Agbazi from Birmingham, who captained that glorious netball team on the Gold Coast 4 years ago? Those would be my two predictions. They will definitely be involved in the relay at the opening ceremony. It's Brums the Word from Anything But Footy, brought to you with Kukri Sports, the official kit provider for Team England. And don't forget, for all your bespoke sportswear needs, go to their website, kukrisports.com. So here we are. We're in Birmingham. We're actually here in the city centre, looking out across the city, looking forward to this Games, which is going to really encapsulate everything that's wonderful about the West Midlands. London will have a little bit of the pie as well, and John is looking forward to covering events in the track cycling down at the Velodrome for us in Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. Brilliant legacy event from everything 2012 as we now, approach, or we are on the anniversary, the 10th anniversary of those London Games. So, great that Velodrome is being used for another huge multi-sport event. Birmingham is ready to go. I think you and I are virtually ready to go. So just continue to follow us as we continue to count down to the Commonwealths.